Hello and welcome. Today we're going to spend some time with the whole idea of living a focusing life. And everyone who's here is an experienced focuser. You've had focusing partnership training, and this is the next step that many people want to take, which is how do I bring focusing into my daily life? How do I live focusing? So we're going to spend some time today with living a focusing life. We're going to do 3 exercises, take you through those processes. And also today, we're going to talk about the course that's coming up that's called Living a Focusing Life, because I know some people here are interested in what's happening in that course. Well, what is living a focusing life? And by the way, I've been doing focusing for more than 50 years. And I do feel I live a focusing life, not just because focusing is my work, but because I have a kind of awareness as I go through my life of how I am at a kind of whole body felt sensing level, especially when there's a decision I need to make, a choice, if there's a conversation I need to have with someone, and I want to have that be a conversation that's not just my ideas, but coming from my sense of the person, the situation, my own needs, and so on. And so I would define living a focusing life for me as being guided by my inner sense of rightness. So, inner sense of rightness is an interesting concept. We'll talk more about that. And it also means that I can pause and notice, and that I'm aware of the moments in life when I especially want to pause and notice, how am I? How am I? And what's my sense of the situation that I'm in? And sometimes I make a big decision that way. For example, I have a young friend. I'm pretty close to her. I'm sort of like a alternate mother or a godmother. And her mother died. And this happened in a different city. I wasn't very close to her mother. So I didn't pay attention to the fact that a memorial service was coming up. And yet, some text messages were going back and forth. And my young friend even asked me, do you think you'll be there at the memorial service? And I said, no. And then it didn't feel right. There was an uneasy sense. I've made the wrong choice. Luckily, I could still make the right choice. So I made some plane reservations and some hotel reservations and changed around some clients. And I will be at the memorial service, which is in 2 weeks. And so that's really important to me, because there have been other times in my life when I made the wrong decision, but I didn't notice. But I mean by the wrong decision is a decision that I regret later. I'm so pleased that I've gotten to the point where I notice that I'm taking the path I don't want to take. And I notice it in time to make a change. And so that's living a focusing life. Not that it happens 100% of the time, but more often I can catch myself if I'm making a choice, a decision, taking an action that I'm going to regret later, that isn't going to feel completely right. So I'll say more about this inner sense of rightness. It's also the process of noticing when something needs attention, something is off. So we're going to do 3 processes together today. And one of them, the first one, is going to be about your inner sense of rightness, connecting with your inner sense of rightness. The second one is going to be about communicating clearly in relationships. Interesting and important way to use focusing in daily life. And the third topic that we're going to do an exercise in today, do a process in, is about knowing what you want. Knowing what you want. And how often do we feel like, I don't know what I want? So living a focusing life can include getting in touch with knowing what you want, and there's a process for that. So let's start with the inner sense of rightness. Now, I'm a big fan of Eugene Gendlin. He's the father of focusing. He was my mentor and friend, colleague. He's where I learned focusing. I met him when I was 22 years old. And at the time he died in 2017, we had been teaching classes together. And one of the things that I love to do is go back to his writing and his wisdom. And about the inner sense of rightness, there's a particular thing that Eugene Gendlin wrote. He wrote it in his focusing book, his book Focusing. Every bad feeling is potential energy toward a more right way of being if you give it space to move toward its rightness. It seems like a very simple statement, but there's so much to it. It starts with this phrase, every bad feeling. Isn't that interesting? The word bad. I just love the word bad because it's almost like a child's word. It's not a very complex word. Every bad feeling, unpleasant feeling, uncomfortable feeling, stressful feeling, every bad feeling, So I feel like he's making this huge statement. He's not saying most bad feelings or almost all bad feelings or many bad feelings. He's saying every bad feeling. And what about it? Every bad feeling is potential energy. And what its potential energy is for is to go toward a more right way of being. So a bad feeling is potential energy toward a more right way of being. And by right, he doesn't mean morally right, correct, right? Obeying some rule or other. He's talking about in alignment with your life direction, your whole sense of your organism, right? Your being as a body, as an embodied life process has a direction. Well, it's part of what's exciting to me. Part of what we need for living a focusing life is to understand as an organism, you have a life direction. And so Gendlin says, every bad feeling is potential energy toward a more right way of being if you give it space to move toward its rightness. What does that mean? To give it space to move toward its rightness. And notice how he's not saying, if you push it toward rightness or if you shame it for not being right, if you give it space. If you give it space. And what I've discovered is the space that he's talking about is a space of attention, a kind of open, allowing, kind attention. So let's do a little mini exercise together right now. So it's not just talking about it, it's giving it a try. Shall we do that? So inviting you to take a moment, be aware of your whole body, wherever you are. You're probably sitting. You could also be lying down or standing. Take some time to feel your body's support, to be aware of your breath. And to let your awareness come inward into the inner area of your body, your throat, your chest, your stomach, your belly. And let's take some time to sense if there's something in you that's asking for your attention. It doesn't have to be a bad feeling necessarily. It could be an uneasy feeling, a cloudy feeling, an uncertain feeling. It could just be that your awareness is drawn somewhere, to your throat, to your chest, to your shoulders. Let's take a moment just to sense. And now, take a little time to stay with that. Well, if there's more than one, then you can say, hello, I know you're there to each of them. We'll take a little time now to stay with both. And just bring into your body the possibility that this, whatever it is, has a knowing of what would be right, that it's pointing you in a direction. It's about something that needs to happen, about something that isn't quite right yet. Don't need to try hard to find that. Just pause a while and feel. Might there be a knowing in this of what would be a right step, a right direction? And what we're doing is we're giving space, because you are not demanding, insisting, you're just being. And let's take some time to sense what that's like when you just be with. Does it make sense that every bad feeling is potential energy for a more right way of being? Can you feel that something inside that doesn't quite feel good, doesn't quite feel right? It knows something. We're just being curious whether that's true or not. It might need more time, that's for sure. But the idea is that you can just feel the beginning of this now. Yeah, a kind of, yeah, I think that's true. I think it's here because something's needed, something's missing. Just leaving a little time. Okay. Well, we're going to bring this process to a gentle completion. So you might want to thank your body. Let awareness emerge, feeling the room around you, letting your eyes come open if they were closed. How was that? So what happens when we tap into an inner sense of rightness by starting with something that doesn't feel good, and understand that every bad feeling is potential energy toward a more right way of being. Something from Simone. Simone says something tired, exhausted, and bored emerged, and there was something that doesn't want pressure. All right. And yes, of course, the process would have needed more time, but you could feel the beginnings of that. Let's talk now about the second topic we're going to go into today, and that's about what's needed to communicate clearly in relationships. And I have another quote from Genlin. Genlin wrote about relationships. He said, "What is true is already so. Owning up to it doesn't make it worse. Not being open about it doesn't make it go away. And because it's true, it's what is there to be interacted with. Anything untrue isn't there to be lived. People can stand what is true, for they are already enduring it." So he's talking about the value of communicating within a relationship how things are going for you, because it's not going to be a surprise to the other person, he says. In relationships, when we communicate clearly, here are the steps I'd recommend. Pause. And pausing is always the first step, because if there's something that needs attention, either within yourself or between you and another person, when you get caught up in responding, in reacting, that's what can get us in trouble, especially if there's something that isn't going well. Pausing is essential. So pausing might be, I need to take a little time with this and get back to you. Or it might be, could we both just pause for a minute? I want to just take a little time to notice how I feel, and maybe you'd want to do that too. The next step is to be sure you are self in presence. And what does that mean? Most of you know that already, I believe. So self in presence means the ability to be with whatever you're feeling, to be with whatever you're feeling, to be with what you feel rather than being what you feel. So I have a sweetie that I live with, and we just celebrated our 25th anniversary of being together. We still have some lovely fights with each other. Yeah. So the other night, I was so stressed and so tired because I'd spent all day doing one thing after another. And then a friend and my sweetie and I watched a movie together. And then after the movie, before bedtime, I still needed to do the dishes. And he, my sweetie, wanted to tell me one more thing about the movie. And I blew up. I said in a very strong voice, "I've been running around all day and now I just want to do the dishes and then sit quietly for a while." And he said, "Why are you so angry with me?" I was not really self in presence at that moment. I was speaking from my feeling of upset. I'm not saying I did anything wrong, but it's an example of not being self in presence. And when he said back, "Why are you angry with me?" I had the impulse to say, "I'm not angry." But at that moment, and luckily, I said to myself, let's pause. Because I don't feel angry, but something about my tone of voice is communicating anger. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to say hello to my feeling of stress. And that's all I needed to be self in presence. My whole voice changed. I explained more gently what I needed. And then we were okay in this case. And so the next step then, after being self in presence, is to get in touch with your positive feelings for this person and your hopes for the relationship. Well, sure, it's not too hard for me to feel my positive feelings for my sweetie. And my hope is that we communicate calmly and clearly. I got in touch with that in that moment. Yeah. And then the next step would be find something that feels undeniably true and sense if it feels right to say it. And that would be, for example, we're having a hard time right now, and I really believe we can get through it. In that case, in the case of needing to do the dishes and sit quietly after the movie, I might have said, I know you want to say something helpful, and I want to let you know that I need something else right now. So, what's most important is this pausing, sensing myself, and then taking time. So, let's do a little process together right now so you can try that yourself. All right, so finding your body awareness, taking time to sense how you are right now. Settling in, feeling the support beneath you. And letting awareness come to your body, your whole body. And the inner area of your body. Letting awareness come in to the inner area that includes your throat, your chest, your stomach, your belly. And as we're talking about communicating in relationships, maybe you could pause and sense or allow to come to mind some relationship that you're in, some recent time perhaps, when there was a need to communicate clearly. It could be a person you live with, or a partner, spouse, family member. Could be a co-worker, employee, boss. Who have you needed to communicate clearly with recently? And as you think about that relationship, as that relationship comes to mind, you might sense how it feels in your body now. And I'm guessing that if that's a relationship that doesn't always have the best communication, probably there's an uncomfortable, uneasy body sense. But let's pause a little longer to let that come. And perhaps you even have a memory of a time when you wished you could have said something to help the relationship communication go better, but you didn't. You didn't know what to say. Or if there's no such time, you could even just imagine being with that person. You're in a conversation with them. You hope it goes well. Okay, shall we do that? So you're imagining, you're remembering a time, or you're imagining a time when you and this person are here. And then the first step is to pause. Well, we have a natural opportunity to pause right here because you're not actually in the interaction. But imagine yourself just pausing. Just pausing. I need some time. Let's take a break. I need a little time. Let's both take some time. And now, self in presence. And what that means is notice your own feelings that are being brought up in that relationship experience. You might take a little time because we've paused, so you have lots of time to notice how you feel there or how you felt. Upset, angry, misunderstood. worried, scared, self-protective, longing for something different. Notice what it is for you. Maybe several things are going on, were going on. Sadness is another one. And then start acknowledging those feelings by using this language. I am sensing something in me feels sad. We're not suggesting you say that out loud to the other person in your imagination. This is an inward acknowledge. I'm sensing something in me feels sad. I'm sensing something in me feels angry. Or I'm sensing something in me feels self-protective, guarded, etc. Let's take a little time just to say, I'm sensing something in me feels da da da. And as you acknowledge, you might also say hello. And I'm saying hello to that in me. I'm saying hello to that in me. Now, notice if you feel a difference from this language, I'm sensing something in me, and from the hello, saying hello. That the difference that you're feeling, I would call being self in presence. You're being the bigger self who can be with the feelings that are there. Okay. Now, next step, imagine you're in that relationship, in that contact. Get in touch with your positive feelings for this person. If this is a upsetting, conflictual situation, you might not have been in touch with those feelings. So let those feelings come now. Even though this person is being infuriating right now, I do love them, or something like that. I do love this person. I do want this relationship, or I do respect this person, or I do want this relationship to go well. Notice that. Yeah, and your hopes, right? I do want this relationship to go well. I do want to have good communication with this person. Getting in touch with your positive feelings for the person and your hopes for the relationship. And now, what might you say that expresses something positive, something true? Take a little time right now to try out different things you might say at that moment. That check with your inner sense of rightness if they feel true and if you sense that might be helpful. And check with your body how you are feeling now about that relationship and about this whole process. And you might thank your body, and we'll complete this process now. I'd love somebody to tell me, how did that go for you?
I've had a stressful morning this morning dealing with phone calls and some broken medical equipment and trying to, arrange stuff like that. And I found myself upset with the clerk, and because there was originally a expectation set of, oh yeah, we can handle this quickly, and then it became, sorry, we can't help you, and on and on. And so I found myself being frustrated with that change of, expectation and then the reality kind of thing. And I found myself like upset with this lady on the phone, and I felt guilty about that. And luckily she called me back and I apologized and we got it worked out. We're going to get the best situation that we can. And what I noticed in these two meditations is in both cases, how I would hold stress was like, there's that expression of like tight ass, but like literally buttocks clenched and kind of drawn up. And,
Mm,
and when you had said in the first meditation something about being caught up, I'm like, oh, that's like literally the case.
wow.
And I found that in both cases, I was able to relax and expand my belly, particularly the lower part of my abdomen. And in the second round, it was even deeper, where just really, like all of a sudden, I was able to breathe like a baby would breathe, where they really stick their belly out and all of that. So
Yeah.
that's been,
Wow. Wow. That's so great. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you really made use of this time
yeah.
to spend, to really listen to what was going on in you and let the body have its next step.
And also I want to say this, that
Mm,
it's like there was the stress, then we worked it out, and then but still body was holding.
yeah.
And and so it's like it's taken some like conscious, and it probably even still is drawn up a little bit more. Like
Mhm,
so
mhm. So there's
so
more.
yeah, so I think even this, like the nervous system is sort of relaxing, like layers of the onion kind of thing.
I
You
love it. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's a very good point. I mean, oh, and thank you so much for sharing, Joelle. I'm just going to say that's such a good point that this is not just done. There's an ongoing process, a gradual process that happens in steps. And Jen Lin also talked about this, how change happens step by step. And sometimes we feel a step of change and we don't, part of us says, did anything really change? Because the whole problem is not completely finished. But one of the skills of living a focusing life is to take in the steps of change that come. And Joelle, definitely you did that when you you could feel your body breathing differently and so on. Well, we have one more process we're going to get to today. And I'm also open to anybody more who wants to share what happened in this exercise, but I'm going to go on. And before we do our next process, I just want to talk about the upcoming class that's called Living a Focusing Life, because I know a number of you are interested in that. It's an 18-week live online course, and I'm the teacher. And in this course, you'll gain confidence and ability in all aspects of focusing partnership. You'll be able to, you'll be practicing living your life from self in presence more and more. And we specifically practice using focusing to make decisions, release blocks, and go after your heart's desire, and bringing focusing to issues in your relationships in more ways than we did today. So it's about the course. It's an 18-week course, but it doesn't meet every week. So it stretches out over about 6 months, often every other week, but sometimes every week, and sometimes with a longer break. The exact schedule is on the website. And it meets at the same time as this webinar. So 10 a.m. to noon. It's a 2-hour meeting on, and it's a Zoom meeting and not a Zoom webinar. So everybody in the course gets to see each other and interact freely. It will start on September 15th. The last day to register is 3 weeks from now, September 8th. It includes having partnerships with other people in the course, but that partnership is not required. It's an opportunity to be partnered with these other advanced focusers who are taking the course. And Each time we meet, there are exercises to do with your partner, and there's handouts, extensive handouts. And I'm the teacher. And so the topics that we're covering include focusing in daily life in general, being self in presence, even when it's challenging, self in presence and parts. And specifically, there's three kinds of parts that we're going to be exploring how to relate with. The first is called a protector, which is basically an inner critic. The second kind of part is a reactive, impulsive part. We call a defender. Third type of part is a very young part. We call a small one. And all of them need a kind of relationship from self in presence in order to shift and help you move forward in your life. We're also going to spend a whole class on the inner sense of rightness. There's going to be a class on why focusing works and also on doing focusing alone. And that comes right before the holiday break. So you'll have focusing alone that you can do on the holiday. We have 2 classes on the topic of releasing blocks to action, 2 classes on the topic of making decisions, including dealing with regrets about past decisions. We have 1 class on the topic of the spiritual side of focusing, 2 classes on going after your heart's desire and also what is in the way of letting yourself want stuff, and 2 classes on relationships with other people. And for each of these topics, there's a new partnership exercise that's specifically aimed at that topic. The prerequisite is focusing training with partnership, either Our Path to Lasting Change Parts 1 and 2, or levels 1 through 4, or the equivalent from another focusing teacher. And if you're not sure if your focusing training is equivalent, you can ask me. And if it's not in your budget, there is a 25% off scholarship you can just take in the shopping cart. And if you need more help than that, we can talk, really. I wanted to show you one of the handouts for the course, because what we do every day in the course includes always a quote, a short quote from Eugene Gendlin. And that's one of the features of it, is that as we did in this webinar, we're diving in to how the work with Eugene Gendlin connects. So the handout for each week looks like this. We start with a Gendlin quote. And then we go on to, how was it since the last time we met? We set a kind of intention to be specially aware in daily life of certain things and to respond in certain ways. So how was that? And then we have the topic for the week. This one's from the week on impulsive parts that can act, like impulsive parts that get angry and yell, or impulsive parts that eat when you're not hungry. There's a lot about that. And then there's a practice to do in daily life. And then there's something about the partnership exercise. So each week, those handouts exist. Now, I see that Antonio wrote in the chat, had some intrusive thoughts that made it difficult to be present. And there's some issues that seem endless. Definitely, I'm familiar with that. And often intrusive thoughts are actually from a kind of part we call a protector. And so they're telling you that things that they're afraid might be true, that they're worried about, like, I can't do this, or there's something wrong with me, or what if this relationship doesn't get better? It's usually that kind of thought. And we have a whole process for being with thoughts like that and turning toward them, very similar to one I showed you with the feelings that come in a relationship. So you'll say, what's coming in is, I'm never going to be able to get this right. So you say, I am sensing something in me is saying, I'm never going to be able to get this right. And I am turning toward that and saying hello. But then it's a little different. Then you say to that part, might you be worried about something? And the fact that worried parts give you intrusive thoughts is pretty well known. And that can change the whole way that feels. And that includes the thought, this issue is endless. Because that thought is often there too. Well, I have one more topic I want to talk about while we're together. And everybody has stayed with us for this whole call. So I'm just thrilled about that. So the third topic that we're getting to is about knowing what you want and being willing to go for it. And the thing is, often knowing what you want starts with what you don't want. Have you ever seen that? Like, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. So spending time honoring your uneasy and restless feelings is actually a roadmap to finding what you really do want in your life. So restless and uneasy feelings can help you go forward. And let's do a little exercise where we do that, shall we? All right. Taking a little time now to settle into your body. Feeling your body supported. Feeling your feet touching something, your seat, your back. And then just allowing it to hold you, letting your body rest into the support that's beneath you. Feeling your breathing. Letting awareness come inward. So you're sensing, especially in the inner area of your body, your throat, your chest, your stomach, your belly. Now, a lot might be going on in your life. So what you're finding already in your body, let's start by saying hello to that. If when you come into your body, you feel something asking you for your attention, tight, heavy, squeezed, something like that, start by saying, hello, I know you're there. This is called the radical acceptance of everything. Because often when people find something in their body, they don't like it, want to try to change that, get rid of that. Well, we say hello to the part that wants to get rid of it and doesn't like it, so that you, self in presence, can simply be with what you're feeling. Hello, be with. Hello, I know you're there. And what a difference that makes. Let's feel that difference. See if you can feel that difference. So when you just say, hello, I know you're there, to how you're feeling in your body. So now that might have helped what you were feeling calm down a little. I hope so. Because we have a new question for you to ask yourself inside. And that is, what do I want for my life? What's going to happen if you bring that question in? What do I want for my life? What do I want for my life might not be the right question for you. It might be, what do I want for the next stage of my life? What do I want for my relationships? What do I want for my profession? So you could change the question, but it's something something about the direction where you're going. What do I want my direction to be here? And let's pause and sense what comes when you ask that. It might not be in words. Often the body answers without words, with images, or simply with feelings. We'll give us a little more time now. What do I want for my life? Now, possibly you got the answer, I don't know. I mean, if you didn't get, I don't know, that's terrific. But if you got the answer, I don't know, try the next step being, what do I not want? What do I know about what I don't want? It might be something that's going on now that you don't want. Or it might be something that you anticipate or are worried about that hasn't happened yet, but you don't want it. Like if you're retiring, it might be, I don't want to sit around and do nothing. So take a little time to sense if there's a don't want about you and your future. And again, it might not be in words, there might be images, feelings, and it might take a little time. That's why we're leaving some time. And the important thing here is that we're being very open. If possible, we're being open. So there might be a part of you saying, I can't do this, nothing's coming. Say hello to that. Because the truth is, your body does know something about what you want, but it might be communicating in a way that would surprise you. And anything counts. Anything is something. Like, I don't feel anything except this shaky little feeling in my chest. Yes. Oh, you're feeling a shaky feeling in your chest. Ah, yeah, that's it. So noticing that your body knows what you want. And it might start by letting you know what you don't want. Well, we're going to bring this process to a gentle completion now. But put a bookmark. If this is something that you'd like to come back to on your own, let this be something you say, I'll be back. I'll come back to this. Because it's it's a nice practice to get in touch with wanting. Wanting carries us forward. In fact, I have one more quote from Jenlin that I'd like to share with you. It's a very simple one. It goes like this: life wants to live. And I found that photo of a flower growing out of the cracks in cement. So what we can trust and depend on is that there is always a forward life process. Our bodies are life living forward. And the whole idea is that we can be in touch with that. And that includes painful, stressful, difficult feelings. They're part of life living forward if we treat them with this space that Gendlin talks about. Well, it's been lovely to be with you today. And if you have questions, do email me and I'll respond to any questions you have. I hope to see you in the course. And thank you so much for coming. Bye for now.